So I haven't done one of these for a while. A fair bit's changed, obviously, in that time. I just had a recap of what I said in the last one, and Kirsty just got back from overseas. I was sleeping on the couch. You know, Kirsty got better. I could sleep in the same room as her again, and that was okay. And then over a weekend, Dad said his calf was quite tight. Turns out he had some kind of infection. So we called a doctor around. That was really hard to get a doctor to come and see Dad during the day. There are services for after hours, but to get a doctor actually to your house in the day is super hard. Dad's palliative care nurse was great, and I asked him and he said, give me a second, and then a couple of minutes later he said, we'll be around in 5 minutes. And he brought Dad's palliative care doctor, who recognized the infection and said, look, we can either treat it or we can just keep it comfortable, which is a bit of a shock. That was kind of ignored in the grand scheme of things. It was just kind of swept over, and we got him care that he needed. So what he had to do was he had to go into Royal Adelaide Hospital, got to ride an ambulance, which was pretty awesome, although that's not a sentence people say very often. Royal Adelaide Hospital is crazy weird, especially the emergency department. I think they get a lot of the kind of psychos and weird people around the city. When we were in the waiting room, we saw people getting walked out in shackles, like the fugitive, a really weird iced up dude. But the funniest thing we saw was a woman with the coffee cart came walking by, and a guy came up to her and goes, do you know where I can get a coffee? And she just looked at him straight in the eyes and she goes, nah. And just kept walking, pushing the coffee trolley. I enjoyed that too much. So Dad was there for a while. He was in a ward of 6 people, which he was never going to be happy with. And they did some tests and started giving him antibiotics through a drip. And then they were keen to kind of move him on. He was going to come home. Then they decided to send him to Mary Potter Hospice, which is where his palliative care doctor is. And so he's probably been out of the house for a week and a half now, and in that time he hasn't done much physical anything. In fact, he's deteriorated quite a lot. He now just kind of goes from his bed to his chair, which are next to each other. At least at our place he was kind of walking a little bit. So he's lost a lot of physical capability. He's getting tired a lot quicker, and it's pretty obvious that his body is slowing down more rapidly now. Today was his 71st birthday, which I don't think any of us thought he would get to. He has done a pretty remarkable job. I mean, he was in hospital in September last year when all this stuff kind of came to a head. At the end of November, he was, in a wheelchair, and he's been doing it pretty tough. I'm really kind of proud of him that he's lasted this long. There's been probably 3 times now where doctors have said you've got days to weeks. The first one of them was 5 months ago. So finally his stubbornness works for good. Today we had some of the family come round to a room in the hospice, and he was in a bed kind of nodding off. We made him a roast lamb and some Peking duck pancakey kind of things, which he really liked. It was really nice to see Dad's family kind of gather around him as well. So I think I'll stop kind of doing these regularly, semi-regularly, whenever they're going to be. I think the whole point of this was for me to vent somewhere. I was kind of hoping it would go into a black hole. But thank you to everyone who's commented and rung me and talked to me about things. You didn't really need to do it, but I do appreciate it. But the main cause of frustration for all this was, the day-to-day goings on with my dad. And I think it's pretty obvious now that he won't come back here. This now isn't the kind of level of care and support that I can give to him anymore. So he's going to stay in Mary Potter for a couple of weeks, and then after that, who the hell knows? They're going to reassess it. But I'm pretty sure that it's exceeded my capabilities now. So at the moment I'm catching up on a backlog of work that I've had just kind of slowly screwing down on me for the last couple of months. And then I'll look forward to going to bed at the same time as Kirsty and having a good sleep and getting up at a reasonable time and going to visit my dad. He's only just across the road, which is really, really handy. And I now get to spend some time with him as his son instead of the person stopping him eating the foods he wants to eat and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to that. If anything changes or anything, maybe I'll start doing these again, but I think I'm probably good for now. Thanks for your support, mate. I really appreciate it. Cheers.